Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Kicking It with Cal. I'm your host, Cal Denicky, and today we have a very special guest with us. Joining us from Illinois, we have Grant Bland. Grant, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's been a while since we've spoken, so I'm super excited to have you on and talk about coaching and the world of sports. But first, I want to talk a little bit about how we met. So, I believe the year was around 2011 or so, but you and I played summer baseball together, Legion baseball, in Macomb, and instantly hit it off, became close friends, and we were 2 years apart in school, but I just so enjoyed playing with you and having those memories of playing with you and other local kids from around the area was just um, it was a blast. So I don't know how much you remember about that, but I just remember having so much fun playing summer ball with you.
Oh, those were some of my favorite memories of playing baseball my entire life, I think, came from playing Legion ball with you guys. I'll never forget when they started. My dad told me that I had no idea what Legion ball even was until the summer right after my freshman year. My dad gave me like, hey, they're gonna do these tryouts or whatever. And I remember I actually just tried to look for it, but I couldn't find it. But there was like a little website that had Macomb, like Legion baseball players on it, and you're like
Mhm.
the first one that pops up on there, and it had like a list of your stats and your accomplishments. And I was like, I want to get to know this guy. I think you were on there. I think BT was on there, Lawver, I think Garrett maybe. So it was like, I just when I went to that and I was like, I was nervous, I was scared, but I was lucky to have you guys there, and you were one of the first guys that kind of took me kind of under your wing, and I've always been very thankful for that. So you showed me like I always was like Cal is like the true definition of like what a baseball player should be. You were always respectful. There was never tantrums thrown or anything with you, and I feel like I learned a lot of the game, from you. Like I was like, this guy knows how to feel the ground ball perfectly. I'm always over there pulling my head. You're over there flat back, like make everything look good. And yeah, I just took a lot of your game and tried to kind of put it into mine while I was playing with you. So yeah, I definitely remember those days for sure.
Appreciate that. And our love for baseball brought us both into our love for coaching. So we'll just get right into it. And I want to know before you started coaching, what were some of your earliest memories just playing sports as a kid?
So I can vividly remember like the T-ball days and the coach pitch days. And T-ball, my parents still have a video of it for my first T-ball practice where I hit the ball and I run to third base instead of first. And they're like, yeah, here we go. This kid, we better find a different thing for him to do. But luckily I stuck with it because my parents, they'll tell you like they really didn't play sports growing up. And I kind of just took a liking to it and watching Cardinals games on TV. Coach pitch started and I got super into it. I was having my parents buy me Cardinal wristbands and putting eye black on me. I was just trying to, I was trying to be like Albert Pujols, Mark McGwire, guys like that. And then it just, ever since then, that was like, I just want to play sports, and you do it with your friends during recess. And I see it with kids today, which is cool too, where it's like, that was me. You start falling in love with sports, like just playing with your friends, man. And so that's kind of where it all started, playing playing baseball. And then I always really wasn't a huge fan of basketball when I was super young. But then of course, when you start playing with your buddies, you just start to fall in love with that one too. So yeah, those are like my earliest days I remember all the way up through college. So
Yeah, and we're both teachers and coaches, so I think you can relate as well to seeing kids who have that same passion that you had and almost like see yourself in some of your students and some of your athletes. And I think those are the ones you're just like,
hmm
that was me a while back.
yep. Of when it's like teaching PE and then having some recess like parts where you see some kids where they start to get ultra competitive and you have to step in, and then after everything's taken care of, you're like, I remember those days, even like just playing with your boys, like there's a heat of the moment kind of thing where you still want to win. And I'm starting to see that more and more with some of these kids where it's like, got to step in, let them know we're just playing a game, but I understand where you're coming from right now. So
And as a coach, who was a coach for you that made a big impact on you in your formative years?
I really, I kind of narrow it down to three, and it's kind of all for different reasons at the same time. So, my first middle school baseball coach, who was also my high school baseball coach, was Ken Shoemaker. And he was just, I felt like he believed in me. And when I was a sixth grader, that was the first time that we got to play fall baseball in Colchester for our school. And I was playing with, Caleb Shoemaker, Trent Paul, Eli Klein. Those kids were in your grade.
Mhm.
And I was the one sixth grader that he put in the starting lineup. And that was something that always stuck with me, where I was like, this guy believes in me. And it just gave me a different kind of confidence. And it just allowed me to kind of play freely, to where he's like, there's a reason, you get to play. So that was something that always stuck with me, even to high school. When I got to high school and I was a freshman, and I pitched the first game of the season my freshman year. And I would play limited roles kind of at the beginning, and then we had a kid quit, and I got slid into the shortstop role as a freshman, and I was so bad. I batted probably 180, error after error. I would come in relief here and there, start a game here and there, but I knew that I was not playing well, and that was something that was tough for me to figure out at first. But Coach Shoemaker, once again, every day rolls you out there because he knows you can do it. And the same thing with Doug Fisher. He was another one that he kind of got me into coaching. He asked me to coach. He coached me seventh and eighth grade baseball, seventh and eighth grade basketball as well. And he was my PE teacher, and we always had a really strong relationship together, and we still talk today. But he was another one that, like, after my eighth grade year, started freshman, he goes, "Hey, do you want to help, just like a volunteer assistant role for the middle school baseball team?" And I was like, "Absolutely, like I'll do whatever." And my role was kind of like keeping the book, just try form relationships with the players, keep them interested. And I didn't really know it at the time, but I was also learning a lot about coaching in the process, a lot of things that Doug does and did for a number of years after that. Um, and then my high school basketball coach, Andrew Jordan, who, I mean, I haven't talked to him since I probably graduated. He's somewhere else now. I think he's a principal somewhere, but he was a coach that I knew I was not a great basketball player. Senior year, probably averaged 3 points a game, but I knew
Hey,
my
same
role.
here. Not
You know what
bad.
I mean? Like, I knew my role. I knew Jamie Cousins and Dieter could shoot. I know Ethan Peterson and Dustin Logan can get buckets down low. I knew my role was to start, play defense, um, limited role, come out, let this other kid come in and score points. So, but he was one that, I mean, after my freshman year, I was like, honestly, don't know if I want to keep playing. But I decided to go out, and then halfway through my sophomore year, Dalton Dieter and Ethan Peterson were other sophomores, but they had full-time starting jobs for the varsity level. And then at the Christmas tournament in Unity, Coach Jordan slid me in there in that role of starting, and he just told me, he was like, I noticed how hard you're working in practice, the way you do the sprints and all this and that. And that was like the first time where I learned, like, coaches are paying attention to how hard you are working and trying to outwork others. And he told me it was very simple. Like, I just want you on defense, like, just play hard to start, and we'll probably move somebody in for you. And I just kind of took that role to heart, and I just kind of made that kind of my thing for the next 2 more years of basketball, is just learning, like, when you play hard, people notice that, and they'll reward you for it. So I'm always very thankful for him kind of instilling that in me.
Yeah. Hopefully those three coaches can hear what you're saying because I think it's always cool to give
Mhm.
back to and pay forward to those who helped you. I know I interviewed my JV soccer coach on one of the first episodes I did for this podcast, and it was so enjoyable to go down memory lane and
Love that.
to hear it 15 years later was
Mhm.
from both ends it was incredible. But the thing you mentioned about just having someone who believed in you, I think that's what it takes, and kids remember that even if they don't show it, like you're believing in your students and your athletes, and even if you never hear it from them ever, like I know you're making an impact. And you were the type of kid who, as a teammate, I knew was always working hard, and it seems like, as a young kid working up your way to the varsity level is something that your coaches saw in you. And as coaches, I think we love that so much. And if we see the kids who are purposely outworking somebody, I think it's just incredible. I had a girl come up to me the other day in class and say, "Coach Denicky, what can I do to play more? I'm coaching girls flag football right now."
Love it.
and I wrote down on a little sticky note, you need to work harder than everybody
Hmm.
at practice, and you need to get your nose in there and be aggressive. And she had the best practice of her season. And I was just like, hey, keep doing that. And she's like, yeah.
That's awesome.
She was like, I was pulling so many flags that day. And I was like, hey, that's all it takes is just, someone to believe in you. So you had
Awesome.
mentioned, Grant, that you started coaching at a young age, helping out with the middle school level. So, what was that first experience like for you? I know you said keeping the book and doing maybe some of the dirty work, but um, yeah, for you looking back on that time as a 14, 15-year-old, what was it like for you?
Yeah, it really it really took me until probably the end of the year to be like, okay, I really enjoyed doing that. Because like I said, it kind of opened my eyes where that was the first year that they'd started allowing fifth graders to come in, and there was a fifth grader that came in. He was a little guy. He was a lefty, but I mean, this kid could play, and he's still to this day. I consider him like another little brother of mine because we had this big connection where it was like it was one of those where I remember like working with him kind of one-on-one stuff, and then he's finding himself with the same role that I was as a sixth grader playing with those eighth graders. He was a fifth grader playing with these eighth graders now. And I mean, he thrived in it. This kid, like I said, he was the smallest kid out there every single time that we played somebody, but man, it would be nothing for him to like dive and make plays and go out and throw strikes and just put the ball in play somehow and create a little chaos. And that's where I kind of learned like maybe that's kind of my role now is getting these younger guys to just believe in themselves a little bit, no matter how big or small you are, to go out there. And if you just kind of play the game and know that somebody in the dugout's got your back, makes it a lot easier. So that was kind of like, I feel like that was my role in those early years of doing that. I did it my freshman, sophomore, and junior year, and then I told Doug my senior year that was when I got my YMCA membership, and that I was like, I'm gonna start. I needed to really hone in on if I want to play college baseball, I have to be able to go and lift weights, and I would go, lift at the Y with my brother after school every day, my senior year instead of go coach. So,
I remember seeing you there.
absolutely, dude. Yep, I know it.
So going in to play college baseball and having your experience, and then also, continuing to coach, where did that first experience take you levels wise and in your career and on your journey?
Yeah. So, I mean, playing college ball, it was one of those experiences that were tough for me, but I mean, it made me a stronger person in the end, and it made me realize that coaching is exactly what I want to do. Teaching and coaching is exactly what I want to do when I get older. So, after my freshman year at Sandburg, I was approached by um, this guy in Colchester, and he asked if I would help be an assistant for his summer baseball team when they were playing at oh, is it Patton, the one next
Yeah.
to like the sewer or whatever?
Hmm.
That's yeah. So, or water plant. We would play. I was just show up, kind of the same role, but he put me in one where he was like, I want you to kind of lead some of these drills that we're gonna do, and anything that you've learned, the last few years. Like I kind of want you to kind of take over as we move forward through this. And I was very appreciative of that. And then I did it again the following summer, and that following summer was also the end of my college baseball career. So Doug was still coaching middle school baseball, and he's like, "Hey, we'd love to have you back." And I got to kind of go into that role that next year, where I was his second assistant, if you will, because there was already somebody there with him, but I had a lot more experience than I did, the 6 years prior to that. So it was easier for me to build more relationships growing up too with these kids as they were playing. And then the following year, the guy above me, he stopped because his kid was done with middle school ball, so it slid me into that next role. And halfway through the year, Fisher, he realized that this is what I was wanting to do. I was going to school for it.
Hmm.
And like halfway through, he was gracious enough to be like, "Hey, I'm gonna slide you over to the third base side, and I'm gonna have you coach third base these games if you feel comfortable with it." And I was like, absolutely. I was nervous at first. I mean, it's middle school baseball at the same time, but Fisher was very good at setting a standard and making sure that our players kind of lived up to that standard. So it was like I want to do the same thing. And it was a year that we weren't very good. We had a smaller team. We had a really good team the year before that, and then we lost a lot of good eighth graders. But um, that was another role where I was like, I will always appreciate him kind of being like, I'm going to be here to help guide you, but
Mhm.
go ahead and kind of take the keys here. So yeah, and then from there just into being the head coach for the middle school team the following year, and then 2 years of that into being our high school baseball coach and high school girls basketball coach. So
And you've coached roughly 5 years of varsity girls basketball and varsity boys baseball, and you're not even 30 yet.
I know that's one thing too where I am very thankful. I really think so. The basketball story is interesting. So that was a sport that I never thought I would coach, if I'm being honest with you. And there was one day where I was taking classes at Western and I had a missed call from somebody and I didn't have the number. So I listened to the voicemail and it was his name's Dave Brown and his daughter and Dave Brown's in-laws were my parents' neighbors. So I know and we would play wiffle ball like when we were younger because his kids would come over and we'd play. And his other in-law actually played Legion with us, Braxton Squire. You remember Braxton?
Oh,
He was,
yeah.
yeah, so Braxton would come over too when we were kids and we'd play. And he goes, "Hey man, I just want to let you know, um, his father-in-law was his assistant, but he got put on to like second or third shift." And he goes, "I just need somebody to help me out." And he's like, "I know that you have been wanting to you're getting into teaching now." He's like, "Just come do practice, check it out. If you want to do it, great. If you don't, that's fine. I'll go find somebody else." And at first, I wasn't sure if I really wanted to do it. I listened to the voicemail. I didn't really react to it. I got back home because I was living with my parents. My dad goes, "Hey, I was reached out by Dave if you want to help coach." And I was like, "All right, I feel like I should probably go check this out then." So, and that was an interesting one where I went there and it was an interesting one because I only knew one kid there. All the other teams that I've coached, like I knew them. Like these kids, they knew me and I knew them for the most part. And this was a whole group where I'm like, there's probably 15, 16 fifth and sixth grade girls here, and I only know one of these kids, and I'd known her since she was really little, but
Mhm.
I'll never forget that first practice I had with them, and they were just so fun to be around. They were so good at listening and just following directions, which I didn't know what to expect fifth and sixth grade girls, if I'm being honest. And it just brought me in. I was like, I feel like this is a good stepping stone as I continue moving with my teaching career. Like all I've ever dealt with is coaching boys. Now you have this whole new dynamic of coaching girls. So I was like, and I'll get to know these kids when I start teaching, here in the next year or so. So it worked out
Yeah.
really well.
And I think that's unusual for you to only know one kid with it being such a small community and, the
Mhm.
ties being so close. So that's cool. And I love that you coached fifth and sixth grade girls basketball because what I tell people is that when I was 11 years old, my sixth grade teacher had us write down, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Mhm.
And I wrote down that I wanted to be a Division I head men's basketball coach because I was obsessed with the Louisville Cardinals.
Oh, I
And
love that.
they were my team, Coach Patino,
Yep.
great teams.
The
And
coach.
then they gave that note back to us on graduation night, our senior year. And I looked at it and said, wow, like
Wow.
this is something I want to do. And obviously I'm not there and don't expect to be, but
Hmm.
whether I'm coaching girls flag football or volleyball or whatever it might be, to me, that is just as important as it would be to coach a Division I team because I'm putting everything I have into it. And to me, it doesn't matter if they're boys or girls, it doesn't matter what age or what grade, like it is what I love to do. It's what you love to do. And I think back to that note often and think like, it doesn't matter if I don't get there because I'm making an impact one way or another. And, some people might be like, oh, like you're coaching girls flag football. Like, what is that? And I'm just like, it's my favorite thing because they're
Yeah.
buying in and, as you said, following directions, wanting to learn, wanting to get better. And that's just as important as anything.
Dude, you hit the nail on the head with that, where just give me your best effort. And it's like, I really feel like, yeah, I've had kind of the same dreams where it's like, it would be so cool to coach a Division I team, you know?
Mhm.
But where I'm at right now is like, I'm getting I'm getting the efforts from them. I'm getting the feedback. I mean, you've had it where kids write you a note thanking you at the end of the year kind of thing, or
Mhm.
you're like, this really, it doesn't matter where I am. Like I love what I do right now, right here in this moment, which is so cool. And it's hard to explain it to people who don't coach
Mhm.
or teach, where it's just like, I could never do that kind of thing. Where I'm like, it's such a special thing to do. You're exactly right. You nailed that. And that's really cool that your teachers did that for you back in the
Yeah.
day.
And with all the good comes some bad. So what's a challenge or challenges you've had along the way?
I think one of the bigger things that I struggle with personally, and I've gotten better with it because I have the mentality of, especially at the varsity level, we're coaching to win games, you know? Um, so
Good.
so I've always kind of dealt with me personally, like the playing time situation, because it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, where I'm like, you do have some of those kids that are working their tails off every day in practice, but they don't see the time that some of your other starters get. And that's always something that's kind of been a struggle for me because I've been that kid in that situation where sometimes you do feel like you're working hard and you are rewarded, but maybe you're not playing as much as somebody else. Even like if you feel like you kind of outwork that person, but it's just one of those where you have to, as an athlete, kind of learn your role. And that's kind of our job as a coach too, is to make sure, which has been better for me, is making sure that my players understand what their role is on the team, because then that kind of alleviates some of the pressure of like, why don't I get to play kind of thing, you know? And I
Mhm.
try to be so clear on the communication with my players on why their role is what their role is. So that's always been kind of a struggle for me, is just divvying up the playing time, especially appropriately, you know, because like I said, you're trying to win
Mhm.
those games, but you also want to make sure that these kids are working hard and staying within your program to kind of build that culture. So I would say the second thing, which is what most of us probably deal with, is there's always going to be some kind of parent thing, of course.
Mhm.
I try really hard to build a good relationship with all the parents. Like today, during the awards thing, I thanked the parents because I got really lucky this year too with basketball, and I have been for most of my coaching career, of having supportive parents that are willing to help me out any way possible. And this year for basketball, I mean, I told them that I was always really scared to ask for help because I always just was like, you should know this. You should have this figured out. You're the head coach, you know, or you're the teacher. Like you should have all this figured out. You know, you're the master of what you're doing right now. And I was scared to ask for help. And kind of one of the parents was like, "Hey, if you need anything, just let me know. Like I'll help you out." And I mean, this woman, she like helped me set up the alumni basketball dinner thing that we did this year. She helped me with all the awards, like getting them printed out, put on these like plaques that she does for FFA stuff, and just a whole like array of parents coming to help work the dinner and the fundraisers and all that kind of stuff that we did. And I was like, that's awesome to have them on your side. Now, of course, too, you're always going to have. I had to learn early on too that no matter what you do, whether it's coaching or anything, like somebody else is gonna think they can do a better job than you. You just have to
Mhm.
deal with it. You know, I'll hear some stuff every now and then, and at the beginning, it really bothered me at the beginning. I'm not gonna lie, and there's still some things that do bother you, but as I've gotten older and as I've done this more, when you really hone in on like I'm doing this for the kids, you know, and it's like everybody's gonna think they can do people are going to think they can do a better job than you no matter what you do, whether it's coaching, teaching, or whatever it is. So those are like probably the two biggest challenges that I think most coaches probably deal with.
And if those parents think they can do a better job, then they can sign up to help coach. And that's the thing that I always tell. I wouldn't say I tell parents, but like
Hmm.
when you do deal with those types of behaviors, it's like, okay, like there's, opportunities to volunteer help coach if you think, but obviously that rarely would happen. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah, the challenges of parents involved in sports is, it's tough. Luckily, I haven't had much, to be honest, in 8 years of teaching and coaching. I,
That's
I,
awesome.
I can't say I had like a truly a moment that like shook me to the core, but I've seen moments with other coaches that have. So
Mhm.
I just know that you always have to be ready for people to speak what they think.
Yeah, that's great. There's times where it's like, man, I wish I was better at doing that, because there's some people who don't even think twice. They'll let you know, and I know it's different too. I always remind myself also, I'm like, they're fighting for their kids, you hope, So like I said, I haven't really, knock on wood, ran into any big issues in the years that I've done this. I've been a part of staffs where it has happened to somebody else, and that's tough because it does really diminish kind of how they feel and think and they want to be done. So yeah, I mean, kind of like you said, just keep moving with it and kind of hope for the best on that. So
Yeah. And on the flip side, what for you is the most rewarding part about coaching?
my favorite thing is just seeing, it's kind of a cliche answer, but I just love seeing individual growth and team growth. So good examples, it's a recency for our girls basketball team this year where we had 18 girls on the team, no seniors. We have 9 freshmen, 4 sophomores, 4 juniors, I think it was somewhere in there. And I mean, we're 6, 7 games through the year, and I mean, we're rolling out. I started 4 freshmen and 1 junior for most of the season. There were a couple starts where we had a couple sophomores in because due to injury. Um, and there was a game where we're 0-7. We're in this Brown County tournament. We're playing this team that I feel confident with. We get down early, we come back, we take the lead, and then we lose late. We lose by like 6. And it was just kind of really defeating. And but the next few weeks, like these kids worked their tails off in practice. We knew that we might have another shot at these guys in a couple of weeks in this new tournament that we're going to be in. And we find ourselves against this team again. And we're playing for this basically the last place game of this tournament. And we were back and forth with
The
this team.
toilet bowl.
Oh, you know it, man. We're back and forth with this team, and they start to get out on a lead. Then we come back and tie it, and then a couple minutes left, we hit a three to take the lead, and we're in a situation with like 5 seconds left, and we've given up probably four. It's an unreal amount of buzzer beaters that teams have hit against us. Not to win games, but you're just
Mhm.
like to like close out halves or something like that. You're like, how does that keep happening? And this team, we inbound it and it hits off our fingertips and goes into their best player's hand. And I'm like, I just kind of throw my hands up, like, you got to be kidding me. She's going to drain a half court shot here. It's already happened once. And this girl, she gets ready to shoot. And I'm not even kidding you. She trips over her own feet, falls down, ball game's over. And you're like, oh, thank goodness. But it was just one of those, like, that's a team you lose to early on, and then you beat them by 3. And then I have 2 more examples of that. We play that same team in the first round of regionals this year, and we beat them by 31. So
Wow.
it's like you lost to that team earlier in the year. You got lucky the first time you beat them, and then you showed growth and you executed the game plan. And we did the same thing early on against South Fulton. We play just a horrible game. We lose by 10 to them in the Beardstown tournament. Last week of the season, we have another shot at them, and we end up beating them by 10. And it's like those are the kinds of moments of growth that you love to see. And our girls, I was nervous because they're so young playing varsity basketball, something I never would have like even dreamed about doing. Like I was hardly playing as a freshman playing JV,
Mhm.
um, but they just stuck with it and they grew and they grew and people stepped up in big spots and I was just so proud of the way that they finished that year out. 6 wins for us is monumental. Like it's huge for our program. So
Mhm.
especially with the youth that we had, man, I'll tell you what, that was so like seeing that kind of team growth and individual growth, like among certain players is the best feeling.
Yeah, and it sounds like having such a young team, you've got to be ecstatic to see what these next 3 years will be like for that young group.
Oh, exactly. And we talked about that at awards night tonight. So I kind of came up with this plan after that very last game. So we win that regional game, which is cool too. And then we get beat by Havana, who's just an unreal, super well coached team. They're just so good in everything they do. Um, After that, like I just came up with the document. And it's got a ton of it's Instagram drills I've been saving over the last 5 or 6 years, and I put them all in this document, and I labeled each one on what they want to do, or what they do, meal plan, workout plan, this and that, and kind of a here you go. Like if you want it, you
Mhm.
want to get better. Here's your no excuse stuff right here. You've always got something at your fingertips. I put our offense on there, how we play defense, And I'll give that to my incoming freshmen too. And it's like, let's all get on the same page here, even earlier. And here's a no excuse thing of you always have something at your fingertips that you could work on. So I'm kind of hoping that they take on to that because there were games this year. I mean, we lost a game by 3 early on in the year that we missed 12 free throws. We lost a game by 7 where we missed 18 free throws. Like there were some games where
I get
the
to the line, coach.
yeah, I know we got to the line, but we weren't hitting. So, but luckily that was something where we saw a little growth at the end of the year where we closed some games out at the free throw line too. So, yeah.
Cool. Um, maybe it's this team or maybe another, but I'm curious if you could tell us a story about a special group that you've coached over your career.
I'm going to go back to girls basketball, my very first year of being a varsity girls basketball coach. So that's the COVID year. We play 9 games. That's all we get. We don't even know if we're going to have a season.
Masks
Um,
on.
oh, masks were on. If you showed nose, you're sitting on the bench.
Teed up.
Teed up, boom. I couldn't believe it. Um, but so that group was so special because we did summer stuff, and I had 3 seniors that year, and they were all just super good kids. Really, I mean, seniors to freshmen really were. And we did all the summer stuff. And a little backstory, this team, West Prairie girls basketball hasn't won a varsity game in 6 or 7 years at this point. So
Wow.
I come in with that mission of like, I feel the pressure on me, honestly, because like they're excited, which is cool. And I'm like,
6 or 7 years,
it was like
zero
6 years
wins.
without 6 wins. I think it was 5 or 6 years, I think, without a varsity win. Yeah. So they'd been through it, man. And these seniors, they love the game of basketball. And they'd also like I'm their third coach at
Hmm.
this point. This is the third coach that they've had in their high school career, which is ridiculous, honestly. Um, so yeah, I think third. Anyway, we don't know if we're gonna have a season. Luckily, we do. Um, our first ever game we go to, we don't even know if we're gonna get to play because it's like snowing really hard. We go to Knoxville. We get to Knoxville 5 minutes before the game starts. I'm like, of course, this is how it goes. I mean, they let us stretch and then they're like, we're gonna go. And I was like, awesome. And we lost by like 25, but the way the girls responded were like, hey, we scored 30 points. And I was like, oh shoot, that's kind of cool. So I was like, I can work with this team, you know. They've seen no success. I think they won like one JV game, like the seniors did, like their whole high school career. So I think we're 0-4 at this point. We have a game in Scioto. We're playing Rova, who's I think they had 3 or 4 wins at this point, and we start out hot. Our JV wins the game. Our JV wins their game, which is cool. Um, but the varsity game, we start out hot. We're kind of going back and forth. And then like start of the third quarter, we just lose it. I mean, we get down by 12 at the end of the third quarter. I think, yeah, going into the fourth quarter, we're down by 12. And my girls just battled. They were scratching, they were clawing, we were hitting shots, we were getting fouled, we were going to the free throw line and making our free throws. Um, and so it's 37 to 35 at this point. We cut it back down to 2. There's 2 minutes left, and we're gonna run this play. It's like you go up through an elevator screen, and one of my seniors, instead of passing it to the girl up top for the 3 for the elevator screen, she just drives, gets right past her defender, drives. There's no help side, scores an easy layup. We're tied up now with like 2 minutes left, maybe. Come down, they shoot it, miss, get the rebound, shoot it, miss, get the rebound. We foul them. They go up, shoot 2 free throws. So now they got a 2 point lead. We come down, like dribble it off our foot, and then you kind of start to feel like it's almost deflating when you see the dribble off the foot and it goes out. You're like, oh my goodness. So there's like a minute left now. Um, and I went back and watched the last couple of minutes of this the other day actually because it's just one of those cool moments that I love. But Rova's bringing the ball down with like just I think a minute left, and they go to make a pass and it like hits off a player's fingertips, goes out of bounds, our ball. So I call a timeout, and something I'll never forget was there's this one of the seniors on our team who I have a really good relationship still to this day with, and the other two also who actually helped me coach 2 years ago, which is a cool story too. But um, this girl Brooklyn, I looked at my assistant and I said, Brooklyn's gonna win us this game right here. So we took the same elevator play and we talked where I said help. They're gonna over help now because you drove to the basket that first time, and I said they're gonna leave Brooklyn wide open at the top. And we got so lucky to where my point guard was a sophomore at the time, and I told him like they're gonna bring some pressure, just do your best to handle it, you know. And she gets to exactly where she needs to be. We go up through the elevators, pass it to her. She hits a three. We go up by one with like 50
Dang.
seconds. Oh, it was just an electric moment. Like the feeling that I got through where I was like, I got goosebumps watching that. But then it's like they call a timeout and there's 50 seconds left, and you're like, guys, we still have to close this out. You
Mhm.
know, we have to learn how to win this game now. So that's what we talked about in the timeout, where I was like, 50 seconds, guys, guard your faces off here. And we go down, they get a couple shots up, they get their offense, they were offensive rebounding like crazy. Um, Missed a couple shots. We get a little poke out, and we're still, like I said, we're new to trying to figure out how to win. So that tip goes out, and there's like 15 seconds left, and we're just gonna go try and score a layup. And you're just like, oh my gosh, stop, dribble it out. No,
Yeah.
missed the layup.
Oh.
Yeah, comes down. We got the rebound. Player goes back up with it. She gets fouled. So she's one of two from the line, misses the first, makes the second. They call another timeout. They get the ball, or they're actually no, they're pushing it down the floor. They hit a corner girl in the corner for I think a three, and right as this girl's getting ready to shoot, their coach calls timeout, and you're
Oh.
like, oh, thank goodness. So
Mhm.
she didn't make the shot, but it went in, came back out, and you're like, oh my gosh. So now the coolest part of this, and that's something I'll never forget, was looking at that group of girls who haven't won a varsity basketball game in the 4 years they've been there, or the previous 2 years before that, like a game hasn't been won here, and just looking at them and being like, you have 5 seconds for, you have 5 seconds, 5 seconds for the rest of your life, but 5 seconds to guard your face off right here, and you earn this win. And they go in, they pass the ball in. One of my players, she builds a great wall, jumps up, no foul called, missed a rebound, goes to us. We hold it, and that buzzer went off. And you would have thought that we won state, which was awesome because they were so excited. And that's just something that I will never forget that moment with that team. And then we went on, we beat another team that year. We finished year 2-7. So for the girls to experience a couple wins, I was like, that's something that's always been super special to me.
Mhm.
I'll never forget that moment with that team.
That that's the moment.
It's a moment, man.
Mhm. It's funny you mentioned like a group that hasn't seen success and then you help to get them to that level, I think is just incredible, something that they'll never forget. And with this team that I'm coaching right now of middle school girls flag football, they had won one game in the past 2 seasons. We play about 8 game schedules.
Mhm.
And then I took over the program this year, and we're going to the county semifinals tomorrow night
Let's
and
go.
completely turn things around. We've lost one game, and these girls have a lot of confidence right now. And
Congrats,
who,
man.
who knows what'll happen tomorrow night? But that turnaround is
Yeah,
something
that's
that
amazing.
coaches
Good for
love
you.
for
That is the
sure.
best feeling, man. Good job.
Yeah. What's some advice you would give to a young coach who's starting up right now?
When I think it might kind of go back to what I talked about a little bit ago. Don't be afraid to ask for help because you don't know everything. And I went in when I was coaching I was coaching fifth and sixth grade basketball when I was 21. I was 20, turned 21 like right at the end of the year. But it was one of those where I was, like I said, I was afraid to ask for help, man. Like I never had a coaching mentor or anything. I always just kind of got slid into the role of like you'll be an assistant. I coaching mentor, I would say Fisher was one, but when it came to like higher levels, I was like I just kind of got you're the varsity coach now kind of thing. So, and that's just it's the same sport, but it's a different sport at the same time when you're playing at that level. So, don't be afraid to ask for help. And it's going to be way harder than you think it's going to be too. You don't know everything, and that was where I kind of got in that mindset of like I follow these coaches on Twitter. Like I'm a Twitter coach now. Like this guy put out something cool. We'll just run that play. It worked for his team. It worked for mine. So. But I would say that's what I would go for. I would go for just relax, have fun, really get to know your players. You have to build some kind of relationship with them too, man. Like that's one thing I take a lot of pride in is, and honestly, one of the best parts about coaching high school is like you, and I'm in a unique situation where I'm teaching kindergarten through eighth graders, but I'm also coaching high schoolers. So I have the potential to see kids from when they were 6 years old to when they're 18 years old, which is just an unreal experience that a lot of people don't, teachers specifically, like don't get. Like, I remember you guys when you were 6 years old, like sound like that coach, but
Mhm.
it's really cool to see some of these kids now, like my juniors that I'm coaching for baseball and basketball. I had them, they were my first ever fifth grade class, and I had them every year up until, when they got to high school. So, and then I only had them as a coach rather than as a teacher, but you're still seeing that growth. So it's like, I take a lot of pride in being able to kind of build those relationships and keep up with them, even after they graduate, birthday texts, how you doing kind of thing, just making sure they're doing okay. What do you need from me kind of thing. So, and I learned that from Coach Shoemaker. He was always really good, and Fisher, like checking up on you, making sure everything's all right. And they still come support me, So, and any way I can support these guys and girls after they're done coach or after they're done playing sports is what I love to do, man.
Yeah. I mean, to see growth from a 6-year-old to 18, I don't know anything like that. I mean, I teach eighth grade and then coach mostly, well, all middle school. So I envy that. And that's something, we grew up very close in the same area. And that's something that like you get in that area is the everyday like connections with the families and for everything that I love about being in Florida with the sunshine and the ocean and everything. I don't get that with when the kids leave my eighth grade classroom and they go off to they get to choose from about 25 different high schools. It's like
Incredible.
it's almost like they're lost in this abyss. And,
Mhm.
I can keep up with a few, but um, if I was back home, it would be different and you could continue to see the growth. So that's one thing I definitely miss a lot and love hearing you say that because it means so much to them. And it's like that just gave me goosebumps. So
Yeah, no, it's definitely a crazy experience. I just had this talk with my sixth grade PE class the other day where we had a rough day, and we had to talk about how you guys are the leaders of this school right now. And I was like, I remember I said, you guys are acting like you did the very first day that I ever had you guys as first graders in here, So, and that's when you're kind of like, oh my goodness, I've known these kids for 6 years now. Like, what the heck? So, yeah, it's a really cool experience and something that I don't take for granted. I mean, I've always kind of been I never thought that was another thing. I never really wanted to teach elementary PE. I was more of like, give me fifth through whatever, but it really opens your eyes when you see these kids at an even younger age and then you really do watch them grow. So,
and you're a father.
mhm.
Congratulations of
Thank
two.
you.
How do you balance coaching and raising a family?
It's it's really hard, but it's really easy at the same time when you love them so much. And you have an incredible wife. My wife is, like I said earlier, she's fantastic. She's an amazing mother. No matter what she says, like I've learned so much from her on how to raise our kids. I was never around babies growing up. Like my cousins didn't have kids yet or anything, and it was like my brother was only 2.5 years younger than me, so I don't remember that. So I was such a nervous wreck. I got to know like her best or one of her best friends um had kids early on, so I kind of got a sense, but I was still awkwardly holding, a baby because you don't want to drop them and things like that. But um so shout out to my wife on being such a great mother. And then my kids are, I mean, they're the best thing that's ever happened to me, of course. And every day that they're growing and getting bigger and smarter and stronger. And I love being around them so much, which is what makes it hard to coach and be away. So I always say this, when we won our no, we won our sectional championship 2 years ago, coaching middle school baseball, which was awesome, an awesome feeling. But I got home and everybody was asleep in bed. And you just
Ooh,
are like,
mm,
man,
it's tough.
this is awesome, but I didn't even get to kiss my daughter goodnight, which sucks. So that's something that I'll always think about, especially as I get older and as they get older. But like I said, luckily they come to my games. They'll sit 2 or 3 rows behind me in the bleachers when I'm coaching. They'll be up along the fence line during our baseball games. And like I said, you do kind of, I've learned too, after having kids, it also kind of changes the way that you kind of teach and coach because you start to be like, I want to be the coach that like I would want my kids to play for me. You know what I mean? Kind of thing where it kind of opens your eyes on kind of how you're speaking to others and everything like that. So balance is it's tough. But just hopefully you have a supportive wife. Um, hopefully you have like the kids, they're gonna keep growing and you just be that like it's when it's weekends or whatever, off days, like it's all about them. So, and like I said earlier, I'm lucky to have a 2.5 month summer vacation and then, not doing anything back again until November starts up for basketball. So I do get to spend a lot of time with them still, but it's still tough on certain nights for sure.
Yeah. Um, One day I just took some mental notes on that of how to balance it if I decide to have a family of my own. But yeah, I feel like, you coming home and no one being awake and, you're just as ecstatic as can be after accomplishing something like that. It's got to feel, I'm sure that moment will stick with you forever for, whatever
Definitely.
reason that might be.
Definitely.
Um, so quickly, if you could hit on the difference between coaching boys versus girls and then middle versus high school, since you've done your fair share of both. Are there any um, differences you see, any preferences, anything that you've noticed?
Yeah, I don't. So when it comes to coaching girls, one thing that I've kind of learned, and I think I'm going to say this the right way, is like I feel like maybe as a male coach too, you almost have to like earn the girls' respect first. Like they have to really trust and believe in you and respect you to kind of give 100%, I feel like. I mean, they're still going to give 100, like, especially if they love the sport. If they're kind of 50-50 on that sport, like if they really want to play, if they're not, like you really got to make sure that they know that you are there for them, right? And that you believe in them and that you want them to succeed. Um, for boys, it was always just, I felt like I just went right in and boom, you go. So,
Mhm.
um, coaching, and that's not a shot at girls or anything like that, but I always feel like that was something where I'm like, I really feel like I need them to really respect me, like, or they have to know that I really do believe in them and that, I want them to like me, give me good feedback and everything like that. And that's all I've ever gotten from them. They're fantastic. And then when it comes to coaching, when it comes to coaching them like boys, girls, all of my all of my philosophies stay the same though. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
everything stays the same. Standards are set and my boys and my girls are so good at following those standards. And I mean, middle school, high school, it's almost getting it's almost getting high school kids, especially freshmen, to realize we're not playing middle school baseball anymore. We're not playing middle school basketball anymore. This is completely different now. And that's kind of a cool thing to see some of your freshmen who've been so successful at the middle school level kind of struggle a little bit. And I've had this talk with a couple, before where I'm like, you've never struggled once playing a sport. Now you're 14 or 15 playing against these 18-year-olds. You're going to struggle a little bit. Okay.
Mhm.
So, and I said, you can live with that and just be whatever with it. I said, or you can kind of let that light a fire a little bit and go prove to them that you should be playing up here too. So that's, I would say, the main difference between middle school and high school for me is just, like I said, I keep everything coaching wise, philosophies and like that the same. Now it's more of like, you just got to start putting in the work. It's a
Mhm.
completely different, it's faster paced and everything you do. So, yeah.
Yeah. Um, Kind of backtracking to how we started the podcast off talking about how we met. You had mentioned the website of like all the players who were on the Legion team. And I had you not said that, Grant, I would have never remembered that for the rest of my life. But I do remember like now thinking back, like, oh, that was, that was
It
interesting.
honestly was like I don't even know who made that. It looked like somebody made like a document and then they're like, let's just turn this into a website real quick. And I will never forget. I tried to look for it earlier today, but I couldn't find it. I was upset because I was gonna bring it up. I'm trying to remember who all the names were on there. Was there like a Cody Ryan or Ryan Cody?
Mhm,
I remember that guy. He was on there too.
mhm.
Oh yeah, I tried to find it earlier, but I couldn't find it, man.
Yeah. So to kind of wrap things up a bit, I just wanted to take a trip down memory lane and ask you if there were any other memories you had from playing together back in those summers, because I just had so much fun, and the vibe was so much different than a varsity or a JV baseball where everything was pretty cutthroat and we could have a, I mean, I had fun playing baseball regardless, but the pressure felt a little bit off, and I thought that I could have a little bit more fun out in those summertime games.
Yeah, you definitely didn't have to feel like you were the guy, right? And that was so I'll be honest with you. I think most people are like, especially as you're growing up, like I was never, when I was younger playing against Macomb kids, I was like, man, I just cannot stand these guys. I don't understand why these guys think
Mhm.
they're so much better than me. That
Mhm.
was always how like I just rolled. It was, I mean, it was the same thing like when you play Bushland or whatever, but for Macomb, it was always just whatever. And then you get to play with you guys and you're like, I talked about it, like you taking me under your wing and showing me like this is how we're doing things here. And you don't have to be the dude now. You can kind of just play the game. We have there's other people kind of in those roles right now. Bryson Gibbons, or was it
Mhm.
Gibbons? Yeah,
Yeah.
like that dude's a monster. Like he Bryce Taylor, like those guys will hit the home runs now. Okay. You just figure out a way to get on base. And you're like, okay, that's kind of cool. Just make the plays hit to you.
Mhm.
So like I said, I'll always be so thankful for you being able to kind of be that guy for me, kind of just showing me the way to play the game, never getting upset. There's no helmet slamming, there's no bat throwing. Like you get out, okay, I'll just go make a play in the field. Okay.
Mhm.
Or okay, I'm not gonna take this at bat with me into the field. Even when you pitch, you had the same mindset. And I will always be super thankful for that. And even like to this day, where we're just talking coaching, talking sports, you take the time to check up on me. How's everything going, man? Like, I appreciate that and I learned from that. And actually, I'll tell you a quick story right here, too. This year, when my basketball team was struggling and we had, oh my gosh, worst possible game you could have. And,
18 missed free throws.
surprisingly worse than that. That next day, I told my girls a story. Um, I told them about Brett Taylor. I said there was this kid that I played with who, um, I said I've never feel like I've met a more confident person in my entire life. Like anything that they do, like when Brett played baseball, you're like, oh my gosh, like this guy, like he just goes up there with so much confidence no matter what he's doing, whether he's playing third, pitching, hitting. The guy just has confidence and like shows that he's a winner too. And I told them that I said I'll never forget this where um there was one day he made the last out and somebody told me to pick Brett up. So I'm like looking around. I've got his glove and I was like, where's this guy's hat? Like flipping hats around. And he goes, it's that hat right there. And I flipped it around and it just says beast underneath it. And I was like, this dude wrote the word beat. Like I have Grant. Never mind. This guy
Uh-huh.
beast under the brim of his hat. Oh my gosh. Like that's confident. And like I was like, but one-on-one stuff, like super, super chill, like super nice guy to you, like was always super kind to me. But when he was out there on the field, you're like, yeah, that guy, he plays like a beast. So I had that conversation with my girls. I'm like, that's a mindset thing that you have to take with you. So I'll just never forget those Legion days were the best, man. I'll never forget too. We were in Galesburg we had a game. I was a sophomore and I was playing up with you guys and I started, and then Brock took me and put me in right field, and I made a diving catch out in right, and you came up, gave me like a huge bro hug. Derek Mavory's like smacking me in the chest. Brett's like throwing my hat everywhere. And we end up winning that game at the end, and I was just like those kind of memories, just being with you guys for. I feel like we played a ton of games.
Mhm.
Um, I just always had so much fun with you guys, and you guys were always so good to me, even though I was just that kid from West Prairie, you know. So just that 1A ball player, you know. So I was
You were
always
not just that kid from West Prairie. You were the man, and we loved you. And
you guys made me feel that, and I always appreciate you. Like seriously, you guys made me feel like I belong here, and that's something I'll never forget. And that's why I try and tell some of my older players, like make these make these younger guys feel like they're part of something because it really kind of dictates some of your success if you feel like you're actually part of this team.
yeah, and speaking of Brett and just confidence, like, telling kids confidence is half the battle. If you can get your confidence down, like
Mhm.
anything is possible. And I still talk to Brett all the time on the phone, and he's built different, and like
Guy is built different.
all of my friends who don't know him, who I met in college or elsewhere, like know of him because of stories like you just
Oh yeah,
mentioned. Like there's too
that's
many
why.
things
Oh yeah,
to
I showed
even.
my girls. I was like, I kind of talked about it, and then I led up to it where I was like, this kid, I've never given up a home run in my life. I've never given up a home run in my life. And then the first game I pitched my seventh grade summer season, we play Macomb. We're playing at Everly, right? The one by the highway.
Yep.
And I strike the first three batters out I face. And like, this is so easy. This is so fun. And then that second inning, the first pitch I throw, Brett Taylor hits it like 400 feet. And I was like, what just happened? That should not happen yet. Like, what's going on? And that's another thing where like that was my first time knowing him where I'm like, yep, never throw that guy a fastball ever again. So
Yeah, he ate fastballs for breakfast,
I
but
did.
you're lucky it took you that long to experience it because I was giving up bombs at 8, 9 years old to him. So I was immune to it at that point. So
Oh, I didn't stop after that. I can tell you that. I gave up plenty. My parents will still remind me of that.
cool. So the last thing I like to do on the podcast is end with one thing on your mind. So is there any type book, podcast, hobby, what's taking up the mental space? Maybe if it's not something coaching wise or anything that you're kind of into right now.
Dude, I'll tell you what, my entire life right now is revolved around my families, my wife and my kids, my parents still, my brother, and my friends, right? Like those are the main people that I love, and then of course the kids that I coach.
Mhm.
But my morning, every day on the way to school, I look forward to my drink that I have, which is more than likely an Alani, which I know isn't healthy, but you just deal with it. Something to eat, and I listen to Pardon My Take every morning on the way to school. And that is what I have a 25-minute commute, and I freaking love every part of that commute. I just love
I'm
listening
in
to that.
AWL as well.
Dude, we're AWLs, and it just, I mean, you know, just listening to guys talk about sports, man. It's the best. I mean, those guys, I was, I liked football growing up, but then I was never like super into it. And then these guys got me like, I feel like I know more NFL players than I do MLB players right now, you know? So, because we're always talking about it. And the Cardinals suck now. So it's just like a combination of kind of that. So I'm like, that's kind of my thing now where I love podcasts. There's some good coaching podcasts out there too, but if you kind of get away from that coaching, teaching life, it's like, man, PMT, my day, man.
I started listening to PMT in 2016, and
Holy cow.
my college roommates got me into it, and I haven't stopped since. Although I kind of go through spurts of sports podcasts where football season, I'm all pardon my take, but probably when March rolls around, I kind of take a break from it, and I'm all about Bill Simmons and Ryan
Oh yeah.
Russillo. And I'm fully in the NBA playoffs right now, so I'll listen to the openings of PMT, but
Yep.
might not get to the interviews. It's all like how much NBA
That's me too.
podcast can I get into right now. But one thing that I'm into is I picked up a book, and it's called The Magic. It's by
Okay.
Rhonda Byrne. I actually have it right here. And a friend of mine recommended it to me. And basically, what this book is about gratitude and giving thanks and saying thank you. And I love the book because it's very practical. Each chapter, you could call it, is a day that it wants you to do something. So the first day had you write down 10 things that you're grateful for. Not
Mhm.
only do you write them down, you say, I'm grateful for blank because, and then after you write those 10 things down, you reread them and you say, thank you, thank you, thank you after each. So you're practicing building up this gratitude in your mind. I was like, oh, 10 things, that's simple. But then it said every day for the next 28 days, I need you to write down 10 things every morning and repeat the same process. And so I've got a huge list compiled of lots of things I'm thankful for, but I'm feel like I'm starting to run out of some things because, can I be thankful for nail clippers and like
I
things that
mean,
I'm just,
be.
but there's a lot of cool things. It talks about money, it talks about your health, fitness, friends, like so many different aspects. And the other week when I started it, I literally told myself, Grant, this has been the best week of the year. And I was like, is it a coincidence that
Interesting.
I'm keeping this list of everything I'm grateful for, and I'm doing these things, and I don't think it was a coincidence. So,
That's
not
awesome.
that anyone who's going through something has to read it. I'm not really going through much at the moment, but
Mm,
um, showing gratitude and thanks for people is super
huge.
important, is what I've learned through it. And she has another book after called The Secret that I'm gonna try to get into. So, if
Awesome.
anybody's listening and wants to, check it out, it's called The Magic by Rhonda
I'm gonna
Byrne.
have to now, man. I'm gonna have to.
So, hey, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a long time awaiting. So, next time I'm home this summer, we'll definitely link up and just want to say thank you and, shout this out to anybody you think would benefit from listening.
Absolutely, man. No, thank you so much for having me on. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, bud. I really appreciate everything you've done for me. So thank
Absolutely.
you.
All right.
You have a good one, man.